This morning, you may have crossed a distance your ancestors would have feared. You sat down, closed a door, pressed a pedal, and your body moved faster than any human body was ever meant to move. No running, no sweating, no bleeding feet, no watching the trees for predators, just a road, an engine, and a few minutes of boredom. But rewind the world 100,000 years, and that same little trip becomes a survival mission. The place you reach before breakfast might have been 2 days away on foot. 2 days of walking through heat, mud, insects, rivers, hunger, and territory where something stronger than you could be hiding. No signs, no bridges, no emergency call, no machine coming to save you. For almost all of human history, movement was not convenient. Movement was danger, and the only vehicle you had was your own body. Today, distance feels almost fake. You can fly over an ocean while watching a movie. You can buy an object made on another continent and complain when it arrives late. You can summon a car from your phone and become impatient after 3 minutes. But for roughly 300,000 years, humans lived inside one brutal rule. Everything happened at walking speed, and that single limit shaped where we lived, what we ate, who we met, who we married, what we believed, and how much of the planet any person could imagine. So before boats, horses, carts, trains, cars, and planes, the story begins with something you almost never think about: your feet. Humans are not the fastest animals, not even close. A cheetah can explode across the ground like a thrown spear. A horse can run faster than you for miles. Even a frightened deer can disappear before your brain has finished reacting. You, on the other hand, are slow. You might sprint for a few seconds, maybe half a minute, and then your lungs start burning. But speed was never the human superpower. Endurance was. You can walk all day, sleep, and do it again tomorrow. Then again the next day, then again after that. Your feet have arches that work like simple springs. Your Achilles tendon stores energy every time your heel hits the ground. A ligament in your neck helps keep your head steady while your body bounces underneath it. And your skin is covered with sweat glands that let you dump heat while many large animals have to stop before they overheat. You were not built to win a race across one field. You were built to keep going after the fast animals stopped. And the strange part is that this old machine is still under you right now. In 1978, Mary Leakey and her team uncovered footprints at Laetoli in Tanzania, preserved in volcanic ash about 3.6 million years ago. They were not shoes, they were not tools, they were just ancient feet walking upright across wet ash. And when you look at them, the disturbing thing is how familiar they feel. A creature millions of years before modern cities was already using the basic transportation system you still carry. 2 feet, a straight body, a horizon ahead. For millions of years, that was enough. Enough to leave one valley, enough to cross open grassland, enough to follow animals, enough to find water, enough eventually to walk out of Africa. Around 70,000 years ago, groups of Homo sapiens began spreading into the wider world. Not as one heroic army marching toward a known destination, but as families, hunters, children, and elders moving little by little. One generation crossed a valley, another reached a coastline, another followed herds into colder land, another stepped somewhere no human had ever stood. They moved through the Middle East. They spread into Asia. They entered Europe. They reached Siberia. Some crossed into the Americas and kept moving south until humans occupied landscapes their ancestors could not have imagined. This was not a journey with a map. It was a slow chain of decisions made by people who could only see the next river, the next hill, the next camp. But here is what most people miss. They were not simply wandering. Archaeologists have found materials far from where they naturally came from. Obsidian carried hundreds of miles from volcanic sources, seashells discovered inland, amber and stone moving across mountains and valleys. That means information was moving too. Someone knew where something valuable could be found. Someone told someone else. Groups met, traded, remembered routes, and passed those routes forward. Before highways, there were human networks made entirely of memory and feet. But feet have a limit. They are amazing on land. Then the land ends. A river can stop a walking animal instantly. A lake can cut a hunting route in half. An island can sit in plain view and remain unreachable, like a world behind glass. For hundreds of thousands of years, water was not scenery. Water was a wall. And then, at some point, humans did something almost absurd. They decided to cross it anyway. In Indonesia, on the island of Flores, archaeologists found stone tools that are often dated to roughly 800,000 years ago. The problem is that Flores was not simply connected to the mainland by dry land. Even during periods of low sea level, water still separated it, which means someone, somehow, crossed open water. The boat itself is gone. Wood rots, reeds disappear. Bamboo does not wait 800,000 years for archaeologists. But the tools remained, and that is enough to make the question unavoidable. What did they float on? Maybe the first boat was not invented like a modern machine. Maybe it began as an accident, a fallen tree, a bundle of plants, a log that did not sink. Someone held on, someone crossed, someone survived. And once humans realized water could carry them instead of stopping them, the map of the world changed. But that was only the beginning. About 65,000 years ago, humans reached Australia. That required sea crossings long enough that you could not simply treat them like a wide river. In some reconstructions, the open water gaps were dozens of miles. You do not accidentally walk to Australia. You need people, planning, food, water, tools, and courage. You need to leave the shore while knowing that the ocean in front of you might contain nothing but more ocean. The oldest actual boat ever found, the Pezzi canoe from the Netherlands, is only about 10,000 years old, just a hollowed log. But humans were clearly using water transport far earlier than the wood can prove. The evidence is not the boat. The evidence is the people on the other side. And thousands of years later, the Polynesians pushed this idea to a level that still feels impossible. They crossed the Pacific, the largest ocean on Earth, in double-hulled canoes carrying families, food, animals, tools, and a whole way of life. No engines, no GPS, no printed maps. They read stars, waves, winds, birds, currents, and the shape of clouds over distant land. They reached Hawaii, New Zealand, Easter Island, and many islands so isolated that missing them meant vanishing into water. Walking conquered land, boats conquered water, but humans still had another problem. You can move your body, but what about everything else? A person can walk 20 miles, but a person cannot easily carry a dead animal, a pile of tools, a shelter, a child, and a week of food for 20 miles. For most of history, the real transportation limit was not distance, it was weight. Your back is useful, but it is not magic. Carry too much and every step becomes damage. Shoulders ache, knees fail, feet split. The journey slows until movement itself becomes punishment. So humans started cheating. First, they dragged things. A hide on the ground, a carcass on branches, a bundle tied to a pole. Crude, ugly, exhausting, but better than lifting everything on your back. Then came something smarter, the travois. Two long poles joined in a simple V, with a load tied between them. Pull one end, let the other end slide or drag, and suddenly one body can move far more weight than it could carry. It was not glamorous. It was not a wheel, but it solved a problem that mattered every day. And because it was made from wood, hide, and rope, most of it disappeared from archaeology. Some of the oldest transportation technologies may have rotted away so completely that we only see their shadow in later cultures. But the biggest breakthrough in moving weight was not an object. It was another living creature. Dogs were domesticated at least 15,000 years ago, perhaps earlier, and they became the first animal partners humans truly brought into their world. They guarded camps, they followed hunts, they warned against danger, and in some places, they pulled. In Arctic landscapes, dogs became engines made of muscle and loyalty. Hitched to sleds, a team could move supplies across ice and snow that would destroy a human carrying the same load alone. But dogs were only the beginning. Humans needed larger partners. Donkeys carried goods. Camels crossed deserts. Reindeer pulled sleds. Llamas moved cargo in the Andes. Everywhere people lived, they looked at the animals around them and asked the same question. Can this creature help us move? Then came the horse. And the horse did not just improve transportation, it shrank the world. Evidence from the bow tie culture in what is now Kazakhstan suggests that people were managing horses around 5,500 years ago. Archaeologists have pointed to bit wear on horse teeth and traces of mare's milk in pottery as signs that these animals were not simply hunted. They were controlled, they were ridden, they were used. For hundreds of thousands of years, the normal speed of a traveling human was about walking pace. On a horse, that changed almost overnight. A message could move faster, a trader could go farther, a raider could arrive before anyone expected him. A person could reach in days what once took weeks. The horse turned distance from a wall into a delay. But here's the part that feels backwards. Humans crossed seas long before they invented the wheel for transport. The wheel seems obvious to us because we are surrounded by it. Cars, bicycles, trains, suitcases, office chairs, shopping carts. But the wheel needed the right conditions. You need suitable materials, tools, animals, or people to pull, and ground smooth enough to make rolling useful. The oldest known wheel and axle evidence comes from places like the Ljubljana marshes, roughly 5,200 years ago. That is recent compared with walking, sea crossings, and human migration. And the first wheels probably were not even vehicles. They were potter's wheels, spinning discs used to shape clay. Then, at some point, someone turned the idea sideways. If a disc can spin under clay, why not under a platform? The first carts were not smooth machines. Solid wooden wheels were heavy. They cracked. They sank in mud. They hated rough ground. In many places, a pack animal was still better. Then spoked wheels made them lighter. Chariots appeared. Roads improved. Cities connected. Goods, soldiers, messages, and rulers began moving through landscapes in a new way. Once animals, wheels, and roads worked together, civilization changed shape. Empires could stretch farther because supplies could move farther. Markets could grow because goods could travel. Armies could cross distances that once protected people. The road, the wheel, and the animal became a machine larger than any single invention. And every modern transportation system is built on top of that machine. The train is a road with metal rails. The car is a cart with an engine. The airplane is the old dream of crossing impossible space finally pointed at the sky. So here is the full story. Humans began with feet. Feet carried us across grasslands, deserts, ice forests, and continents. Water blocked us, so we learned to float. Weight crushed us, so we learned to drag. Then we built frames. Then we partnered with animals. Then horses made the world smaller. Then wheels and roads made it smaller again. Then engines made distance collapse so completely that we stopped feeling it. Now you sit in traffic inside a metal room, moving faster than kings, emperors, and ancient messengers could have dreamed, and you call it slow. You fly across an ocean in a single night and get annoyed by the food. You tap a screen and expect a stranger in a car to find you exactly where you stand. You live in a world where movement has become so easy that stillness feels like the problem. But your ancestors knew the opposite. For them, staying still could mean starving. Leaving could mean dying. And walking into the unknown was sometimes the only way the species survived. We solved distance so well that we forgot it used to rule us. Every road, every bridge, every airport, every harbor, every rail line, every shipping route, and every tire mark on this planet is part of one ancient story. A human looked at a horizon. They did not know what was beyond it. They went anyway. And maybe that is why movement never really leaves us. Because long before we had engines, maps, passports, or wheels, we were already the animal that could not stop walking.